The traditional paper lanterns above me swayed with each movement of the mourners, their footsteps soft against the polished wooden floors of the Kim family estate, like whispers counting down to something I couldn't name. I'd been serving tea and rice wine at Korean community events for 3 years now, but I'd never felt the weight of death and cultural distance pressing down on a room quite like this. The air smelled of chrysanthemums. Too many white chrysanthemums. Their sharp, almost medicinal fragrance mixing with incense, smoke, and grief spoken in hushed Korean that I could barely understand. My fingers ached from gripping the lacquered serving tray. I'd been on my feet for 7 hours, weaving through clusters of men in expensive black suits and women in traditional hanbok that probably cost more than my annual rent. They spoke in rapid Korean about the deceased, their voices carrying that particular reverence reserved for the powerful and the feared, a reverence I recognized even without understanding every word. Nomu antakawo. Such a tragedy. An elderly woman whispered near me, jade jewelry gleaming at her throat. Yoonwoo Kim 36세 juktani. Shimjang mabire. Dead at 36. Heart attack, they say. Her companion replied in Korean, dabbing at dry eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. 그런 사람이 그렇게 칼줄이야. Who would have thought a man like that? I shouldn't have been listening, even though I barely understood. I was supposed to be invisible. That's what Mrs. Park, my supervisor, had drilled into me during training, her English broken but her meaning crystal clear. Serve, bow if necessary, and disappear. We were ghosts in their world, nothing more. And I was even more invisible than the other servers, the only black face in a sea of Korean mourners, my brown skin making me simultaneously hypervisible and completely unseen. But something about this funeral felt wrong. Maybe it was the way the younger men gathered in tight circles, their eyes constantly scanning the room with military precision. Maybe it was the bulges I'd noticed beneath several suit jackets, guns. I realized with a cold shock, even at a funeral. Or maybe it was the casket itself, positioned at the far end of the ceremonial hall like a sacred centerpiece, surrounded by enough white chrysanthemums to fill an entire Korean flower market. I'd heard whispers about Yoonwoo Kim. Everyone who worked in Koreatown had. He owned half the Korean restaurants and karaoke bars in Los Angeles, they said, though everyone knew that was just the surface. Beneath the legitimate businesses ran rivers of darker enterprise protection money, underground gambling dens, things people like me didn't speak about if we valued our safety. The Kim family had ruled the Korean underworld in LA for 2 generations, and Yoonwoo had been their crown prince, then their king, and now apparently their corpse. I moved through the crowd, offering rice wine to people who took cups without seeing my face. My feet throbbed in the cheap heels I'd bought at a discount store, and I could feel a blister forming on my left heel. The black uniform dress I wore, the only formal thing I owned that seemed appropriate, was starting to cling to my back despite the air conditioning that kept the ceremonial hall at a temperature that probably cost more per hour than I made in a day. Ibayo. Miss. A hand touched my elbow, and I turned to find an elderly Korean woman in traditional black hanbok, her hair in a perfect bun, her eyes like dark stones. She spoke to me in rapid Korean, gesturing sharply toward the casket. I caught only a few words. Guts. Flowers. Shitherda. Wilting. I'm sorry. I began in English. Guts. Flowers, she repeated, more forcefully this time, pointing at the casket. Gochseo. Fix them. Her tone left no room for misunderstanding. I blinked. I'm serving drinks, ma'am. I'm not. Jigum. Now, she commanded. Her voice didn't rise, but something in it, that particular Korean authority that demanded obedience, made my stomach clench. This wasn't a request. I set down my tray on a nearby table and walked toward the casket, my heart hammering against my ribs. The crowd seemed to part around me, and I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that made my skin prickle. I was suddenly conscious of my outsider status, walking through this sea of Korean mourners toward their fallen king. Some eyes followed me with thinly veiled disapproval. Others looked through me as if I didn't exist. As I approached, I could see the casket more clearly. Lacquered wood with brass handles, the lid open to display the deceased in traditional Korean funeral custom. I'd never seen a dead body before. My grandmother had been cremated after the cancer took her. Her casket closed at the small service I'd barely been able to afford. I didn't know what I expected. But as I reached the elaborate flower arrangements and began adjusting the wilting white chrysanthemums with trembling hands, I couldn't help but look. Yoon-woo Kim was beautiful, even in death. That was my first thought, and it came with a wash of shame. His face was perfectly composed, skin pale like porcelain. Dark hair swept back from a face with sharp angles, high cheekbones, strong jaw, features that looked carved from marble. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car back when I'd had a car, before it died and I couldn't afford to fix it. His hands were folded over his chest in traditional repose, and even in stillness, there was something powerful about him, something that whispered of danger and command. My fingers brushed against a chrysanthemum, and a petal fell, drifting down to land on the casket's polished edge. I reached to remove it, leaning closer, and that's when I saw it. His throat moved. It was so slight I thought I'd imagined it. A flutter, barely visible, just beneath the skin where his pulse should be. I froze, my hand suspended in midair, staring at his neck. Nothing. No movement. I must have been seeing things. Exhaustion playing tricks on my eyes after hours of being on my feet, of navigating a cultural space where I didn't belong. There again. The smallest tremor, a ripple beneath pale skin. My breath caught. I looked at his chest, watching with an intensity that made my vision blur at the edges. And then I saw it the faintest rise and fall, so subtle it could have been a trick of the candlelight flickering from the ceremonial candles. But it wasn't. His chest was moving, breathing. He was alive. The room spun. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling the gasp that wanted to escape. This couldn't be real. They'd examined him, hadn't they? Korean doctors, medical professionals. Someone had to have confirmed his death before this elaborate 3-day funeral ceremony began. But looking at him now, at that barely perceptible movement, I knew with absolute certainty that Yoon-woo Kim was not dead. I should have walked away. Should have told myself I was wrong, that grief and exhaustion and cultural confusion were making me see things that weren't there. Should have remembered that I was just the black waitress, the outsider who didn't understand Korean customs, who had no right to disrupt this sacred ceremony. Instead, I did the stupidest, most reckless thing I'd ever done in my 27 years of life. I pressed my fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse. His skin was warm, not cold, not lifeless warm. And there, beneath my trembling fingertips, I felt it. Slow. So slow it was almost imperceptible but unmistakable. A heartbeat. "He's not dead," I whispered in English, the words falling from my lips before I could stop them. No one heard me. The conversations continued around me, a low buzz of Korean voices discussing family honor and territory and things I didn't understand, peppered with words I'd picked up working in Koreatown. Gajuk, family, chungsung, loyalty, juntong, tradition. I pressed harder, feeling for that pulse again, needing to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. "He's not dead," I said louder this time, my voice cutting through the ceremonial quiet. A few heads turned. I saw confusion flash across Korean faces, then dismissal. The crazy black waitress, probably upset by the sight of a corpse, probably doesn't even understand what she's disrupting, but I didn't care about their judgment. I could feel his heartbeat getting stronger beneath my fingers, as if my touch was somehow calling him back from wherever he'd been. "그는 죽지 않았어요! He's not dead!" I shouted in broken Korean, my voice cracking with urgency and fear, and something wild that I couldn't name. The room went deathly silent. Every eye in the ceremonial hall turned to me, to the black woman with her hands on their dead boss, disrupting their sacred funeral rites. I saw shock ripple through the crowd, then anger, then disbelief, and then I saw fear, real, visceral fear, flash across several faces. "Gunyoril Deone! Get her away from him!" someone growled in Korean. And suddenly, there were hands on my arms, pulling me back. Multiple voices shouting in Korean words I didn't need translated to understand their fury, but I fought them. driven by an instinct I didn't understand, reaching for Yoonwoo's hand. Please, you have to listen to me, I pleaded in English, then tried in broken Korean. 그는 살아있어요. He's alive. I can feel his pulse. 맥박이 있어요. 미쳤어. She's hysterical, a woman declared in Korean. 이 미국 여자가. This American woman. Another voice spat, but I didn't stop fighting, because under my fingers, Yoonwoo Kim's pulse was growing stronger, and then everything changed. If you're hooked on Sophia and Yoonwoo's impossible love story, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell because the next chapter is going to be insane. Comment below, Team Sophia or Team Tradition. Don't miss what happens next. Their love is about to face its deadliest test yet. See you in the next chapter. Yoonwoo Kim's eyes snapped open, dark, intense, piercing through me like I was the only person in the room. The memorial hall erupted into chaos. Elderly women screamed in Korean about Gijin, ghosts, scrambling backward in terror. Younger men rushed forward, hands diving into jackets, guns materializing faster than I could process. The shouting was deafening, Korean voices overlapping in panic and fury. This is some sick American prank. Someone yelled in English, jabbing a finger at me. That black woman did something to him. Through the pandemonium, Yoonwoo's hand shot out with lethal precision, his fingers clamping around my wrist like iron. He spoke one word in Korean, 멈춰, stop, and the entire hall fell silent. His eyes never left mine as he switched to English, his accent slight but his authority absolute. Who are you? My throat closed. I'm just the waitress. Sophia Martinez. Godsmer! Liar. Multiple voices erupted. She's part of this. She must have. Chongi. Silence, Yoonwoo commanded in both Korean and English. He studied me with calculating intensity, my brown skin, my cheap uniform, my trembling hands. How did you know I was alive? The words tumbled out. I saw your throat move. Your chest, it was rising and falling. I couldn't let them bury you alive. Even if I was wrong. Even if I don't understand your customs. He spoke rapidly in Korean to a stern-faced man built like a wall. I caught fragments. 보호해. Prat. 증인. Witness. 아무도 믿지 마. Trust no one. The man, Minho, I heard someone say, began clearing the room in harsh Korean, writing down names. An older man protested angrily, gesturing at me with disgust. 가족이야! 저 외부인은. This is family business. That outsider. Yoonwoo cut him off in English, deliberately. Someone tried to bury me alive. She saved my life. She stays. When I tried to leave with the filtering crowd, their backward glances full of hatred and suspicion, his grip tightened on my wrist. You're either the woman who saved my life, he said quietly in accented English, his thumb pressing against my racing pulse, or you're part of the conspiracy that nearly ended it. His dark eyes held mine, unblinking. Until I know which, Sophia Martinez, you're not going anywhere. Dr. Lee arrived within 20 minutes, an elderly Korean man in wire-rimmed glasses who took one look at me and frowned. He spoke to Yoonwoo in rapid Korean, no English, not even an attempt while I stood there feeling Yoonwoo's hand still wrapped around mine like a shackle. I should give you space. I tried to pull away. Let the doctor. Stay. Yoonwoo's grip tightened. Not painful, but absolute. Dr. Lee pulled out medical equipment, his movements precise and urgent. He pressed a stethoscope to Yoonwoo's chest, checked his pupils, drew blood with hands that trembled slightly. His face grew more alarmed with each test, his Korean becoming faster, more agitated. 의사 선생님, 진정하세요. Doctor, calm down, Yoonwoo said, his voice still rough like sandpaper. He turned to me, translating in measured English. Tetrodotoxin, pufferfish poison, used in Korean fugu preparation. My stomach dropped. Someone poisoned you? Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. His jaw tightened as Dr. Lee continued speaking rapidly. The toxin mimics death, slows the heart rate and breathing to almost nothing. The dose was calculated perfectly. I would have been under just long enough for the 3-day funeral rites. And then, I whispered, though I already knew. And then they would have sealed my casket, buried me according to tradition. His dark eyes held mine. I would have woken up 6 feet underground, suffocated in the dark. The room tilted. I'd stopped someone from being buried alive. Actually buried alive. Yoon-woo barked orders in Korean, something about toxicology reports, testing everything he'd consumed in the last 48 hours. Dr. Lee nodded frantically, packing his equipment. Then Min-ho appeared in the doorway, his expression carved from stone. He spoke to Yoon-woo in Korean, but his eyes were fixed on me with open suspicion. He wants to know, Yoon-woo translated, why an outsider would notice what trained Korean doctors missed. I saw movement. Min-ho cut me off, speaking directly to me in broken English. Maybe you poison him. Maybe you play hero. Make us trust you. He stepped closer, menacing. Why black woman working Korean funeral? Who sent you? Nobody sent me. I work for the catering company. I've been serving Korean events for 3 years. Pyongyanghaneyo. How convenient. Min-ho sneered. Come on, hey! Enough! Yoon-woo snapped in Korean, then switched to English. She's the only one who saw. That raises questions about everyone else, including the Korean doctors who declared me dead, including my own family who accepted it without question. The implication hung heavy in the air. Someone close to him had done this. 24-hour protection. Yoon-woo continued in Korean, then English. No one gets near her without my approval. Protection? Panic clawed up my throat. No, I need to go home. I have work tomorrow, 3 shifts. I can't afford to. You can't afford to leave. His tone was flat, final. Whoever poisoned me will see you as a threat. A witness who ruined their plan. But I'm nobody. I work 3 jobs to pay off my grandmother's medical debt. I live in a studio apartment in Koreatown. I don't have anything to do with your world. You're in my world now. He stood, swaying slightly, and I instinctively reached to steady him. In my world, loose ends don't survive long. And you, Sophia Martinez, are now a very dangerous loose end. The words hit like ice water. I'd saved his life, and now mine was in danger. Tell me everything, he commanded, his hand still holding mine. What you saw, when you saw it, every detail. I told him about the flutter in his throat, the shallow breathing, the faint pulse. He translated portions for Min-ho, whose expression never softened. Why? Yoon-woo asked suddenly. Why did you care what happened to someone like me? You must have heard stories. You know what I am. I met his eyes, searching for words in my limited Korean before switching to English. Everyone deserves to breathe. Nobody deserves to be buried alive, regardless of who they are or what they've done. Regardless of what language they speak or what world they come from. Something shifted in his face. Surprise flickered across those dark eyes, maybe recognition of something he hadn't expected to find. You'll stay here, he said in careful English. At the estate, under my protection. I'll triple your monthly income. Pay off your grandmother's medical debt entirely. You can't just... I need you to help me find who did this. You notice what others miss. You're not bound by our cultural expectations, by the blindness that comes from being inside this world. He stepped closer. And, more importantly, you're the only person in this entire organization I know didn't try to kill me. Min-ho's phone buzzed. He answered in Korean, his face darkening with each word. When he hung up, he spoke rapidly to Yoon-woo. Yoon-woo's grip on my hand became painful. What? I asked. What did he say? He turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something like fear in his eyes. The catering company that hired you, the one you've worked for 3 years. His voice was deadly quiet. It doesn't exist. Never did. The floor dropped out from under me. That's impossible. I've been working for a front company. Someone's front company. His eyes bored into mine. So tell me again. Sophia Martinez. Who sent you to my funeral? The next 48 hours were a blur of interrogations and investigations. Min-ho's team traced every thread of my employment history while I sat in a luxurious guest room that felt more like a prison cell. guards stationed outside my door. On the second day, Yoon-woo appeared with news that should have relieved me but somehow made everything more complicated. "You're clear," he said in English, settling into the chair across from me. "The catering company was a front, yes, but it was legitimate, used by multiple Korean businesses to hire temporary staff without paperwork complications. You were hired through a temp agency 3 years ago. Every job, every event, every payment, all verified. Then why? Because someone knew you'd be at my funeral." His jaw tightened. "They knew you worked Korean events. They knew you'd be close to my casket. And they wanted you there. As a witness? A scapegoat? That's what I intend to find out." The estate became my gilded cage. Each morning, I woke to traditional Korean breakfast delivered by silent staff who set down banchan dishes and rice without meeting my eyes. I couldn't tell if it was cultural deference or disdain for the black outsider who'd disrupted everything. I spent afternoons in Yoon-woo's library, drowning myself in Korean language books. "안녕하세요. Hello. 감사합니다. Thank you. 도와주세요. Help me." The last one felt most relevant. I walked the gardens under the watchful eyes of guards who spoke no English, their hands never far from their weapons. Dinners were torture, sitting in the formal dining room with Yoon-woo, his elegant younger sister Soo-jin, and occasionally Min-ho, listening to rapid Korean conversations about territory disputes and business alliances I barely understood. Yoon-woo would pause occasionally, translating key points into English, his dark eyes always finding mine across the table. He was everywhere, even when he wasn't. I felt him in the guards stationed outside my door at night. In the Korean hanbok that appeared in my closet alongside Western clothes, someone had measured me perfectly. In the coffee that arrived each morning, prepared exactly how I liked it, though I'd never told anyone. 2 creams, no sugar. "Be careful," Soo-jin told me one afternoon, her English flawless and Princeton educated. We were in the garden, far enough from the guards that they couldn't hear. "My brother looks at you like you're a puzzle he needs to solve. In our world, the people we care about become targets." Her eyes held mine. "And you're already an outsider, that makes you even more vulnerable." "I don't think he cares about me like that," I said, but my voice wavered. "Then you're not paying attention." She touched my arm gently. "And neither is he. That's what makes this dangerous." On the 6th morning, raised voices in Korean woke me before dawn. I crept to the staircase in my silk pajamas, following the sound to Yoon-woo's office. Through the partially open door, I saw an impeccably dressed Korean woman, late 20s, designer suit, face sharp with fury. She was arguing with Yoon-woo in rapid Korean, her gestures cutting the air like knives. Then she switched to English, clearly for emphasis. "She's either a planted conspirator or a dangerous distraction. A black waitress with no background, no connections to our world, no reason to be here except that you've decided she's special." My chest tightened. "Ji-won?" Yoon-woo's voice was cold. He responded in Korean first, then English. "Sophia saved my life." Min-ho's investigation cleared her completely. "Your investigation?" Ji-won's laugh was bitter. "You're becoming soft, Yoon-woo. Focused on your little American hero instead of the bigger picture." Her voice rose. "And choosing her over me, over our family's arrangement, over tradition, it's making you vulnerable." There was an arranged marriage. Of course there was. Yoon-woo's response was quiet, but it carried the weight of finality. "The arrangement between our families ended when I modernized our operations. What I want now is my choice, not traditions." "Choice?" Ji-won's voice cracked. "I can see it in how you look at her, Yoon-woo. Like she matters more than family honor, more than everything we built together." He didn't deny it. Instead, he said something in Korean, low, firm, unmistakable in its finality. Whatever the words were, they made Ji-won's face flush with rage. "당신은 후회할 거예요. You'll regret this," she hissed, then stormed toward the door. I scrambled back to my room, heart hammering, closing the door just as I heard her heels clicking down the hallway. I pressed my back against the wood, trying to process what I'd heard. Yoon-woo wanted me. Not just as a witness or a puzzle. He wanted me in a way that was breaking family arrangements, cultural expectations, traditional obligations. And I was the outsider causing it all. A soft knock made me jump. "I know you heard." Yoonwoo's voice came through the door, speaking in careful English. I opened it slowly. He stood in the hallway wearing traditional Korean hanbok dark silk, perfectly tailored. A conscious choice that somehow made the cultural divide between us feel even wider. His black hair was swept back, his face unreadable. "I'm sorry," I started. "I didn't mean to." "Don't apologize." He stepped into my room without invitation, and I let him because stopping him felt impossible. "You're affecting my judgment, Sophia." My breath caught. "That woman Ji-won, she said there was an arrangement." "There was." It ended. He moved closer. "But not the way Ji-won thinks. You're affecting me, yes, but not by making me weak." His eyes held mine. "For the first time since taking over my family's business at 25, I'm thinking about something besides honor, tradition, and survival." "What are you thinking about?" My voice barely whispered. "Suntek, choice," he said in Korean, then English. "Freedom. Building something new instead of being trapped by what came before." Another step closer. "You represent something I never thought I could have, Yoon-woo." His phone buzzed urgent, insistent. He answered in Korean, his expression darkening with each word. When he hung up, the softness in his eyes had been replaced by something cold and deadly. "What?" I asked. "What happened?" "Ji-won's family." His jaw clenched. "They've called an emergency meeting of the 5 families. They're demanding I answer for breaking the marriage arrangement." He looked at me, and I saw the weight of his world crashing back. "And they're demanding I hand you over for questioning about my poisoning. But Minho cleared me. They don't care. They want you gone." He stepped closer, his hand cupping my face. "And if I refuse to give you up, they're threatening war." "Then let me go," I said, my voice breaking. "I'll leave. I'll disappear. You can tell them." "No." The word was absolute. "I've spent my entire life doing what tradition demanded, marrying who they chose, running the business their way, following their rules." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You're the first real choice I've ever made, and I'm not giving you up." The meeting with the 5 families was set for 3 days later. Yoonwoo spent those days preparing his defense, coordinating with Minho, making calls in rapid Korean that I couldn't follow. But each night, he came to my room, and we talked. On the second night, he found me in the library, struggling through a Korean language textbook. "You're learning," he said in English, settling beside me on the couch. "Trying to." I set the book down. "I figure if I'm going to cause an international incident, I should at least understand what people are saying about me." He smiled, a real smile that transformed his face. "They're saying you're dangerous, a threat to our way of life." "Are they wrong?" "No." He moved closer, and I felt the heat of him. "You're the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me, Sophia Martinez." "Because I'm an outsider? Because I don't fit into your world? Because you make me want things I never allowed myself to want?" His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. "I know more about you than you realize, not just from Minho's investigation. I've been watching you." My breath caught. I know about your grandmother who raised you after your parents died, about working 3 jobs in Koreatown, learning Korean phrases to better serve customers even though no one expected you to." His dark eyes held mine. "About the Maya Angelou poetry book you read when you think no one's watching, about the nightmares I hear through these walls, about caskets, about being buried alive. You had no right. Everything I learn makes me want to know more," he said, mixing Korean and English. "You represent something I never thought I could have. Chayu freedom, from tradition's expectations." My back hit the bookshelf as I retreated. "This is crazy. You're a Korean mafia boss. I'm a black waitress who barely speaks your language. Your family clearly disapproves. This can't work." He braced his hands on either side of me, caging me in without touching. "Tell me you don't feel this connection between us, and I'll back away. I'll keep you safe, protected, but at a distance as tradition would demand." His voice dropped. "But if you can't say that, Sophia, if there's even a part of you that feels what I feel, then stop running from it." I couldn't speak. Couldn't deny the magnetic pull despite every logical reason. It was impossible the way my pulse jumped when he entered a room. The way I'd been studying Korean desperately to understand him better, the dangerous dreams I'd been having that had nothing to do with caskets. "I'm scared," I finally whispered. "Scared of your world. Scared of being an outsider in your life. Scared of what it means to fall for someone so different. Fear means you're smart," he said in English. Smart enough to understand what being close to me could cost, especially as a black woman in a Korean crime organization. He switched to Korean. "나는 내가 원하는 것을 취하는 이기적인 놈이야. I'm a selfish bastard who takes what he wants." Then English. "And I want you, Sophia. I want you in my life, in places no one else has reached, regardless of what tradition says I should want." He was giving me a choice. I could see the tension in his shoulders as he held himself back despite every word declaring his intent. I should have said no. Should have protected myself from the inevitable pain of being rejected by his world. Instead, I closed the distance and kissed him. The kiss was electric, devastating. Yun-woo, kissed with precision and control, but also with a hunger that spoke of breaking free from expectations. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I forgot every reason this was impossible. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he said in English, "This was either your best decision or your worst. Time will tell." His thumb traced my swollen lips. "But you're mine now, Sophia, and I protect what's mine with everything I have." Minho's sharp knock shattered the moment. His urgent Korean indicated a situation requiring immediate attention. "Stay here," Yun-woo ordered in English. "Please, just this once." But I couldn't. After he left, curiosity and worry drove me through the darkened hallways. I followed the sound of voices to a room I'd never entered before, and that's when everything went wrong. I was reaching for the door handle when a hand clamped over my mouth from behind, yanking me backward into the shadows. A voice whispered in my ear, perfect English, no accent, distinctly female. "Don't scream. Don't fight. Just listen." I froze, my heart hammering. "You think you're special because you saved him? You're not. You're a pawn." The woman's breath was hot against my ear. "And pawns get sacrificed. The 5 families meeting? It's a trap. For you and for him." Before I could process her words, footsteps approached. The woman shoved me forward. I stumbled, catching myself against the wall. When I spun around, she was gone, vanished like she'd never been there. Yun-woo appeared around the corner, Minho behind him. His eyes went wide when he saw me. "Sophia? What are you?" He saw my face, pale and shaking. "What happened?" "Someone was here. A woman. She said." I struggled to breathe. "She said the meeting with the 5 families is a trap. For both of us." Yun-woo's expression turned to stone. He barked orders in Korean to Minho, who immediately spoke into his radio, calling for a full security sweep. "Did you see her face?" Yun-woo pulled me close, his hands running over me, checking for injuries. "No." She grabbed me from behind. But Yun-woo, she knew about the meeting. She knew about me. About us. Then she's one of them. His jaw clenched. Or she's trying to help us. Either way, we need to find her. But they didn't. The security sweep turned up nothing. No intruder. No evidence anyone had been there except me. "Maybe I imagined it," I said hours later, sitting in Yun-woo's office while he reviewed security footage. "Maybe the stress." "You didn't imagine it." He turned the screen toward me. "Look." The footage showed me in the hallway, alone. Then, for just a fraction of a second, a shadow moved behind me. Too fast to see clearly, but there. Proof I wasn't crazy. "Who is she?" I whispered. "I don't know." Yun-woo's voice was grim. "But I'm going to find out. Before the meeting. Before she can hurt you." I was still shaken the next morning when Yun-woo's uncle nearly knocked me over outside the office door. He stopped, looked at me with undisguised contempt, and spoke in harsh Korean I didn't need translated. Then he switched to broken English. "You have no place here. You understand nothing of our ways." Before I could respond, Yun-woo emerged from his office, his arm immediately wrapping around my waist, possessive, protective. He spoke to his uncle in rapid Korean that sounded like steel wrapped in silk. his tone polite but deadly. Uncle. He switched to English deliberately. This is Sofia Martinez, the woman who saved my life. Sofia, this is my father's brother, who forgets that I lead this family now, not tradition. The uncle erupted in angry Korean, gesturing at me at my brown skin, my cheap clothes, everything about me that screamed outsider. I didn't need translation for the disgust in his eyes, the way he spat words that clearly meant I was beneath their family, contaminating their bloodline. Yoonwoo's response was ice. He spoke in Korean first, his voice dropping to a register that made even me shiver, then English. Leave my house. Don't return until you're prepared to show respect to the people I choose to protect. His grip on my waist tightened. My father's way nearly got me killed by following blind tradition. I won't make the same mistake. The uncle left with a string of Korean curses I didn't need translated, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the walls. I'm sorry. Yoonwoo started. Don't. I pulled away gently. I'm not a prisoner. I don't need to apologize for walking through a house I'm living in, even if your family thinks I don't belong here. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise. Maybe respect. Come. Soju hanjan haja. Let's have a drink. In his office, he poured traditional soju into small glasses. The liquor burned going down, but I welcomed the fire. How do you live like this? I asked. Constant suspicion, betrayal, the weight of family expectations crushing you. He was quiet for a moment, occasionally dropping into Korean when emotion made his English falter. I trust actions over words. Chung-sung demonstrated, not declared. His dark eyes found mine. You acted when everyone else, people who shared my language, my culture, my world, merely performed grief without truly seeing. I just did what anyone would do. No. He leaned forward. You did what a good person would do. In my world, Sophia, good people are precious. Someone who sees beyond cultural boundaries, who acts from pure dodogjuk yonggi, moral courage. That's rarer than you know. I stood to leave, overwhelmed by the intensity of his gaze, but his voice stopped me. Stay. Please, talk to me about something besides traitors and politics and family honor. So I did. We talked for hours, him in mixed Korean and English, about inheriting his father's empire at 25, about mistakes made following tradition blindly, about the crushing loneliness of power when you're expected to marry for alliance rather than love. I told him about my grandmother who raised me after my parents died, about being black in predominantly Korean Koreatown, about dreams abandoned because survival took precedence, about feeling like a ghost in spaces that weren't made for people like me. We talked like normal people until sunset painted the office gold, until guards changed shifts outside, until untouched dinner grew cold on the table. When he finally walked me back to my room, his hand never left mine. He taught me Korean words in a low voice. Anjan, safety, boho, protection, sosok, belonging. At my door, he lingered, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist. The meeting with the 5 families is tomorrow. Whatever happens, I need you to trust me. I do trust you. I whispered. Good. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to mine. Because what I'm about to do might look like I'm giving you up. But I promise you, Sophia, I'm not. I'm ending this war before it starts. How? By giving them something they want more than your blood. His dark eyes held mine. My complete submission to tradition. My word that I'll follow the old ways, honor the family arrangements, put duty before choice. My stomach dropped. You mean G1. You're going to agree to marry her. I'm going to let them think I will. He cupped my face with both hands. Trust me. Midojo. Trust me. This is the only way to keep you safe. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went white. What? I asked, fear clawing at my throat. Min-ho found her. The woman who warned you. His voice was tight. Sophia, you need to see this. He turned his phone screen toward me. The photo showed a Korean woman, mid-20s, beautiful, and wearing my exact catering uniform from the funeral. Is that the impersonator, the one G1 hired to frame you? His jaw clenched. She's been in the house this whole time, working as staff, watching us. The shouting woke me at dawn the next morning, Korean voices raised in rage and terror, shaking the windows. I threw on silk pajamas and ran downstairs, my heart pounding. Minho had a bleeding Korean man pinned against the wall by his collar. Yoon-woo stood before them in traditional hanbok. He must have been at some early morning ceremony, his face carved from ice and fury. "Marhae, speak!" Yoon-woo commanded, then switched to English, his eyes finding me on the stairs. Tell Sofia Martinez exactly what your family did." The man was middle-aged, expensive suit torn, blood running from his nose. He spoke in broken English mixed with panicked Korean. "My niece Jiwon Park, she was the one who poisoned Yoon-woo-si. She want marry him, unite families in traditional way, but he refuse her." His voice cracked. "He choose modern business over traditional alliance. So she decide to kill him, make look like Yakuza did it with the fugu poison, start war between Korean and Japanese gangs, weaken both families, so Park family could control everything." My stomach churned. The woman from the office. The arranged marriage. "She hire woman who look like you," the man continued, tears mixing with blood. "Black woman, same build, wear your catering uniform. She think if someone saw, they blame you, the outsider." He was sobbing now, but Ji-won never expect, she never think an outsider, especially black woman who don't understand Korean death rituals, would actually stop 3-day funeral, would actually save him. Yoon-woo spoke rapidly in Korean, and through his translations I understood the full picture. Ji-won had orchestrated everything. The poison calculated to keep Yoon-woo under just long enough for traditional burial, the frame-up of the Yakuza to start an international gang war, the woman who looked like me to cast suspicion if anyone asked questions. "The impersonator," I said. "She's been here. In the house. She warned me about the meeting being a trap." Yoon-woo's eyes snapped to mine. "What?" "Last night. The woman who grabbed me. She must have been trying to help, to warn us. Or to create more chaos." His expression darkened. "Where is she?" he demanded of the uncle. "Where is Ji-won hiding? She run when she hear you alive." "I don't know." Yoon-woo pulled a gun from beneath his hanbok and pressed it to the man's temple. He spoke in Korean too rapid for me to follow, but I understood the tone. Cold, merciless, final. "Appa." Sujin's voice cut through the violence from the doorway. "Not in front of Sophia." Yoon-woo's eyes met mine, and I saw him waiting for me to run, to scream, to reject him, to see him as the monster he really was, gun in hand and murder in his eyes. The door started to close as Minho dragged the pleading man away. I should have run. Should have demanded to leave this world of violence and blood. Instead, I crossed the room and gently took the gun from Yoon-woo's hand, setting it carefully on the table. "I understand who you are," I said in English, meeting his eyes. "But I also know what you've been to me, how you make me feel seen, valued, like I belong somewhere for the first time since my grandmother died." He kissed me, then desperate, fierce, like a drowning man finding air. When he pulled back, he spoke in Korean first. "Sarangheo, Sofia Martinez." Then English. "I love you. I know it's too soon. I know it's insane. I know my family will fight this. But I love you. Nado saranghae. I love you too," I whispered in halting Korean, then English. God help me, but I do. 3 hours later, they found Ji-won hiding in a safe house in Koreatown. Yoon-woo left with Minho and a team of armed men, his kiss lingering on my lips, his promise to return echoing in my ears. I paced the estate, unable to understand the Korean updates crackling through the radio Minho had left behind. Every burst of static felt like a countdown to something terrible. Sujin found me at sunset, carrying traditional Korean tea, her face drawn with worry. "Appa always comes back," she said gently in English, pressing the warm cup into my hands. "You should know love doesn't weaken him like Uncle thinks. It gives him something to protect. That makes him more dangerous than ever." "Then why do you look so worried?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because there will be consequences for choosing you, for breaking tradition this way. Our family will resist. Other families will see you as his weakness, as the outsider who corrupted him." Her eyes held mine. "You need to decide if you're strong enough for this, Sophia. For what's coming. What's coming?" Before she could answer, the radio crackled to life urgent Korean, Minho's voice tight with something that sounded like panic. Sujin's face went white. "Ani, no," she whispered. "What? What did he say?" She looked at me, and I saw real fear in her eyes. Jiwon's dead. But before she died, she sent a message to all 5 families. Sujin's voice shook. She told them that you and Yoonwoo are lovers, that he's breaking sacred tradition for a black outsider, that he's weak. So the 5 families just voted. Her hands trembled. They've declared Yoonwoo unfit to lead, and they've put a price on your head, $5 million, to whoever kills the woman who corrupted their king. When Yoonwoo finally appeared in my doorway hours later, there was blood splattered across his white hanbok. I ran to him, my hands frantically searching his chest, his arms, his face. "어디 다쳤어요? Where are you hurt?" I asked in panicked Korean, then English. "Tell me where you're hurt, not my blood." His voice was exhausted, hollow. Jiwon tried to run, pulled a gun on Minho. He switched to Korean, then back to English. "I'm sorry you have to see this side of my world. The violence, the blood, I kissed him, cutting off his apology. "I'm choosing all of you," I said fiercely. "The Korean crime lord and the man who brings me coffee. The traditional and the modern. The good and the terrible and everything between." I pulled back to meet his eyes. "Stop apologizing for being who you are." Something broke in his expression. He lifted me, carrying me to the bed, his voice rough with emotion. "I need you. Noga pyohe. I need you. I need to feel something besides death and duty and family honor. I need to feel alive." What followed was inevitable, the culmination of everything building since that moment at his funeral when his eyes first opened to find me. 2 people from different worlds finding connection beyond language, beyond culture, beyond every reason it shouldn't work. Afterward, we lay tangled together, our breathing slowly returning to normal. Yoonwoo's fingers traced gentle patterns on my skin. "Goronejo. Marry me," he said in formal Korean, then English. "Marry me, Sophia." I went still. "What?" He propped himself up on one elbow, his dark eyes intense. "I know it's fast. I know you should say no. I know my family will resist. Ara, I know, but I almost died, Sophia. And when I woke up in that casket and saw your face, the only thing I could think was that I'd wasted so much time following tradition when I could have been building something real, something chosen." His hand cupped my face. "So marry me. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life Noroboho Hago, protecting you, loving you, making up for every moment you felt invisible or like you didn't belong." I should have said it was too soon, too crazy. That I barely spoke Korean and his world was violent and his family disapproved. Instead, I said, "Yes." Then in Korean, "Ne, koronarkeo. Yes, I'll marry you." "You're sure?" His voice cracked with emotion. "Because once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be tied to me, to this world. I'd rather have a short time being truly alive with you," I whispered, than a long time being invisible and alone. He kissed me with a tenderness that made my chest ache, then promised in both languages, "I'll make you happy, hengbokage hejurge, whatever it takes, however long I have." The next morning, wedding planning began with terrifying speed. Yoonwoo insisted on a ceremony honoring both cultures, Korean paebek and Western vows, hanbok and white dress, tradition and choice merged together. His uncle stormed into the office during a planning meeting, red-faced with rage. His mother appeared the next day, tears streaming as she begged him in Korean not to dishonor their heritage by marrying an outsider. But Yoonwoo stood firm, his hand never leaving mine. "She saved my life. Ne sontagia. It's my choice. This is happening." 2 weeks before the ceremony, I was in the garden with Sujin choosing flowers when Minho's voice crackled through her radio. She answered in Korean, her face draining of color with each word. "What?" I demanded. "What's wrong?" She looked at me, real fear in her eyes. "The 5 families. They've accepted Yoonwoo's decision to marry you on one condition." "What condition?" "You have to prove you're worthy. That you understand our world. Her voice shook. They've given you a test, Sophia. One test to prove you belong. What kind of test? The woman who impersonated you, the one Ji-won hired. Sujin's hands trembled. They found her. She's being held at the Park family compound. She met my eyes. And they're demanding that you be the one to execute her, in front of all 5 families, to prove your loyalty. My blood ran cold. They want me to kill someone? If you refuse, they'll consider it weakness. They'll vote to exile Yoon-woo, strip him of his position. She grabbed my shoulders, and the bounty on your head becomes permanent. Every assassin in 3 states hunting you, and if I do it, then you become one of us, untouchable, protected. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But Sophia, can you live with that? Can you become a killer to save the man you love? I didn't have to answer. Yoon-woo appeared like a shadow, his face dark with fury. No, he said in Korean and English. They don't test my wife. That night, he went to the park compound alone. When he returned hours later, blood on his hands, he told me simply, "It's done. She's dead. And the 5 families have their answer. No one manipulates what's mine." 3 weeks later, I stood in a traditional Korean hanbok, vibrant crimson and gold that made my skin glow, preparing for the paibak ceremony. My hands shook as Sujin adjusted my hair. "You're about to bow to people who hate you," she whispered. "Ready?" "No, but let's do it anyway." The traditional ceremony was brutal. I knelt before Yoon-woo's family members one by one, offering them dates and chestnuts in silk pouches, bowing with the precise angles Sujin had drilled into me. Some accepted with stiff reluctance. Others wept openly, whether from joy or shame at this breach of tradition, I couldn't tell. Yoon-woo's mother took my offering with trembling hands and said something in Korean I didn't catch. Yoon-woo translated quietly. "She says you have kind eyes, like her sister who died young." It wasn't acceptance, but it was something. Then came the Western ceremony in the garden. I changed into a white dress that scandalized the elderly. Korean relatives, white was funeral color, they whispered in harsh Korean. But I wore it anyway, walking down an aisle scattered with both white roses and Korean mugunghwa flowers. Minho walked me down, his grip surprisingly gentle. "You have courage," he said in broken English. "More than most men I know." Yoon-woo stood at the altar in a Western suit with subtle Korean elements, traditional knots on the cuffs, a hanbok-inspired collar. When he saw me, his composure cracked, tears shining in his dark eyes. The bilingual officiant began. When it came time for vows, Yoon-woo spoke in Korean first. "당신을 내 생명으로 지키고 모든 전통보다 소중히 여기며 이 길을 선택한 것을 후회하지 않게 하겠습니다. I will protect you with my life, cherish you above all tradition, and make sure you never regret choosing this path with me." Then English, his voice breaking. "I promise to be worthy of your courage." My turn. I started in broken Korean. 모든 것을 통해 당신 옆에 서고 당신의 파트너이자 동등한 존재가 되겠습니다. I will stand beside you through everything, be your partner, and equal. Then English. I will love you even when our worlds don't understand, and I will build a family that honors both of our histories. By the power vested in me, in both Korean and American law, I pronounce you husband and wife. 부부가 되었습니다. His kiss tasted like tears and promise, and the future we were choosing together. The reception transformed the same memorial hall where I'd stopped his funeral weeks earlier. Korean lanterns mixed with Western chandeliers. Traditional music blended into American R&B. Some guests whispered it was sacrilege. Others saw beauty in the fusion. I danced with Yoon-woo to both K-pop and gospel music. With Minho, who admitted gruffly, "You stronger than look." Even with Yoon-woo's uncle, who told me in stiff Korean, "You bring shame, but also courage." This is unexpected, grudging acceptance. I'd take it. "You were never just a waitress," Sujin told me as we watched Yoon-woo navigate between Korean and English, traditional and modern. "You were always the woman brave enough to speak up. That's why you'll survive this world you see beyond our cultural blindness." We left early, driving to a beachside house in Malibu far from Koreatown. from family expectations, from the weight of what we'd just done. For 3 days, we existed in a bubble. I discovered Yoon-woo couldn't cook Korean food despite his heritage, that he sang off-key to American pop songs, that he read philosophy in both languages. He learned I sang gospel in the shower, read Maya Angelou poetry, that I was terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. On the 3rd morning, I woke to find Yoon-woo on the phone speaking urgent Korean. His face was pale. "Musaneria? What's wrong?" I asked. He hung up slowly. That was Minho, Jiwon's family, the Parks. His voice was hollow. "They've just declared formal war against us. Blood vendetta for Jiwon's death. But she tried to kill you." "Doesn't matter. In traditional Korean honor codes, family comes first." He pulled me close. "They're coming for us, Sophia. All of us. And they're starting with you, the outsider who corrupted me, who caused all of this." "When?" His phone buzzed with a text. He looked at it, and his face went white. "Now. They're coming now." He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the door. "Minho says they've found the beach house. We have maybe 5 minutes before." The window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Armed men in black poured through, shouting in Korean. Yoon-woo shoved me behind him, reaching for a gun I didn't know he'd hidden. "Run!" he shouted. "Sophia, run!" But there was nowhere to run. We were surrounded. The Park family attack at the beach house ended in blood, 3 of their men dead. Yoon-woo shot in the shoulder, me with glass cuts across my arms. Minho arrived with reinforcements just in time. The war that followed lasted 2 brutal months before the other families forced a truce. The price? Public humiliation. I had to stand before the 5 families and bow in apology, not for saving Yoon-woo's life, but for causing discord. I did it, my knees on cold marble, while Korean voices whispered that I was Changya, or Webuin, outsider,